Imagine a place where the entirety of ancient human knowledge, science, philosophy, history, astronomy, literature, was gathered under one roof. A sanctuary of wisdom built on the shores of Egypt, meant to preserve the very soul of civilization. That place was the Library of Alexandria. The Library of Alexandria is the greatest example of human genius and simultaneously the most heartbreaking evidence of human folly. Humanity once succeeded in assembling the knowledge of the known world, and then, in a flash of fire and chaos, it erased it all. Built in the early 3rd century BCE, during the reign of Ptolemy, the first Soter, a former general and trusted companion of Alexander the Great, the Library of Alexandria was conceived as far more than a mere collection of scrolls. After Alexander's death, Ptolemy inherited Egypt and sought to transform Alexandria into the intellectual and cultural heart of the Hellenistic world. At the core of this vision was the Museion, or Mouseion, a vast institution inspired by the Greek ideal of learning. The name itself meant the seat of the Muses, referring to the 9 goddesses of art, literature, and science. It functioned much like a modern university, housing scholars, hosting lectures, and encouraging original research. The library was a critical part of this complex, not just a depository of texts, but a living center of intellectual activity. Ptolemy I and his successor, Ptolemy II Philadelphus, actively recruited scholars from all across the Mediterranean and Near East. These thinkers were granted residence, stipends, and access to an ever-expanding collection of knowledge. Among them were poets, scientists, historians, and philosophers. One of the first directors, Zenodotus of Ephesus, began the daunting task of organizing the scrolls and standardizing literary texts, including the works of Homer. He was succeeded by Callimachus of Cyrene, who developed the Ptolemies, the world's first known library catalog, a massive 120-volume index categorizing authors, titles, and subjects. The foundation laid by these men and the royal vision behind them gave rise to the most ambitious intellectual project in human history, one that still captivates the imagination today. Every ship that entered the bustling harbor of Alexandria, whether merchant, diplomatic, or scholarly, was subject to a unique and ambitious inspection. Royal agents, acting under the orders of the Ptolemaic dynasty, would board each vessel and search for scrolls, manuscripts, or any written material. These texts were then taken to the library, where expert scribes meticulously copied them. But it didn't end there. In an act that reflected the library's near-obsessive pursuit of knowledge, the originals were catalogued and kept in Alexandria's growing archive, while the copied versions were returned to the ship's owners, often without explanation or compensation. This practice, known as book requisition, was not considered theft in Alexandria, but rather a noble service to mankind. The policy was relentless, executed with the precision and authority of a state-backed institution. It applied to texts in all known languages: Greek, Egyptian, Persian, Indian, Phoenician, Hebrew, and from every culture that touched the Mediterranean and beyond. The goal was audacious: to acquire every book in existence. Over the decades, this aggressive acquisition strategy helped the library grow into the most extensive repository of knowledge the ancient world had ever seen. Estimates vary, but scholars believe that at its height, the library may have contained anywhere between 40,000 and 400,000 scrolls. Each scroll represented countless hours of observation, thought, calculation, storytelling, or spiritual reflection. A staggering embodiment of human intellect across centuries. Some legends claim the library even had an elite division responsible for translating foreign texts into Greek, ensuring their accessibility to the scholars of the Hellenistic world. This massive endeavor helped preserve and synthesize knowledge from Egypt, Mesopotamia, India, and even early Chinese thought. In many ways, this policy symbolized the very soul of the library: bold, curious, and unapologetically ambitious. A monument to the idea that knowledge should be pursued with unrelenting passion. Great minds worked within the hallowed halls of the Library of Alexandria. Thinkers whose influence still reverberates through modern science and philosophy. Among them was Eratosthenes of Cyrene, a polymath who served as the chief librarian. Using only a stick, shadows, and a deep understanding of geometry, he measured the Earth's circumference with astonishing precision over 2,000 years before the first satellite ever entered orbit. His estimate, made in the 3rd century BCE, was within just a few percent of the actual figure. But Eratosthenes didn't stop there. He also calculated the tilt of the Earth's axis, created a system of latitude and longitude, and was one of the earliest proponents of a leap year. Then there was Hipparchus of Nicaea, often regarded as the father of astronomy. He compiled the first comprehensive catalogue of stars, documenting over 850 of them, along with their positions and brightness. He also laid the foundations of trigonometry, introducing the concept of chords, precursors to sine and cosine, which enabled future astronomers to model celestial movements with mathematical precision. Some even say he discovered the precession of the equinoxes, a slow wobble in the Earth's rotational axis that takes 26,000 years to complete. Euclid, the father of geometry, is believed to have taught at Alexandria during the reign of Ptolemy I. His magnum opus, Elements, was compiled and refined here. A collection of geometric proofs so elegant and universal that it was used as a textbook for over 2 millennia. Newton himself studied it. Euclid didn't merely summarize geometry. He built a logical framework that laid the foundation for modern mathematics. Heron of Alexandria, an inventor and engineer, revolutionized ancient mechanics. He constructed intricate automata, theatrical devices, and most notably, the Aeolipile, the world's first known steam-powered engine. Though it was seen more as a curiosity than a tool for industry, Heron's design revealed a spark of technological foresight that would not be realized until the Industrial Revolution. And nestled on one of those dusty scrolls, perhaps read by only a few curious minds before it was lost to time, were the writings of Aristarchus of Samos. Long before Copernicus, Aristarchus dared to propose a radical idea: that the Earth revolved around the sun, not the other way around. His heliocentric theory was so ahead of its time that it was largely dismissed, yet it showed the kind of bold thinking that the library nurtured. In Aristarchus, we see a glimpse of what science might have become had such ideas been preserved and explored instead of forgotten. These were not just scholars, they were visionaries. Their work transformed Alexandria from a city of stone and sand into the intellectual heart of the ancient world. And the library itself, a sanctuary of scrolls, became the engine of human advancement. And yet, it was all destroyed. All of it. How different would the world be if just 10% of those texts had survived? The answer is unknowable, but it's hard not to imagine that we lost centuries of advancement. The library's fall represents not just the destruction of books, but the silencing of thousands of voices, discoveries, and dreams. Among its last great scholars was Hypatia, the first known female scientist in history. Daughter of the philosopher Theon, she was born sometime between 350 and 370 CE. A leader of the Neoplatonist school of thought in Alexandria, Hypatia was revered for her brilliance in philosophy, astronomy, and mathematics. Though none of her writings survive, her legacy echoes across time. She is believed to have helped develop early versions of the hydrometer, the astrolabe, and the hydroscope. She revised the algebraic works of Diophantus, and most importantly, she taught that humans could reach perfection through reason, without divine intervention. That belief, in the increasingly Christianized Roman Empire, marked her for death. In 415 CE, Hypatia was dragged from her chariot by a mob of Christian zealots, beaten to death, and her body burned. Her murder signaled not just the end of her life, but the final breath of Alexandrian intellectual culture. She remains a symbol of knowledge, defiance, and the fight for truth in the face of ignorance. But who truly destroyed the library? That question lingers like smoke rising from a fire long extinguished, a mystery woven from politics, religion, ideology, and centuries of shifting narratives. Some point to Julius Caesar, who, during his siege of Alexandria in 48 BCE, ordered his ships in the harbor set ablaze to prevent them from falling into enemy hands. The flames, according to ancient sources like Plutarch and Dio Cassius, spread from the docks into the city, possibly reaching the warehouse district where part of the library's collection was stored. If true, this event may have marked the beginning of the end, a partial but devastating blow. Others blame the Christian purges of the 4th century CE, particularly under Emperor Theodosius I. As Christianity became the dominant religion of the Roman Empire, pagan temples and learning institutions were targeted for destruction. In 391 CE, the Serapeum, a grand temple to the god Serapis and believed to be the location of one of the library's satellite collections, was destroyed by a Christian mob. Eyewitness accounts from church historian Socrates Scholasticus describe the violent dismantling of statues, scrolls, and symbols of pagan knowledge. If the main library had already been weakened by time and neglect, this was perhaps a fatal wound. Then there are the accounts of the Muslim conquest of Alexandria in 642 CE. According to later medieval sources, when Caliph Omar was asked what should be done with the library's books, he allegedly replied, "If they agree with the Quran, they are unnecessary. If they contradict it, they are heretical." The result, legend says, was the systematic burning of the remaining scrolls. Some used to heat the city's bathhouses for months. However, this account comes from sources written centuries after the fact, and many modern historians question its authenticity, suggesting it may have been more propaganda than fact. Could it be that no single event destroyed the library, but rather a slow, cumulative erosion? Fires, fanaticism, and political shifts, each stripping away pieces until nothing remained. The library may not have gone up in one great inferno, but quietly disappeared, neglected, dismantled, forgotten. And yet, some whisper of survivals, scrolls smuggled out by scholars, hidden in the East, translated and preserved in Islamic and later European libraries. Others speculate that lost texts may still lie buried beneath the sands of Alexandria, waiting to be rediscovered. In the end, perhaps the greatest tragedy is not that we don't know who burned the library, but that no one fought hard enough to save it. Modern historians believe the library may have faded slowly, damaged repeatedly over centuries until nothing remained. A death not of flame, but of neglect. And then there are the theories. What if some scrolls survived, spirited away by scholars, hidden in the East, or buried beneath the sands of Egypt? What if fragments of ancient technology, philosophy, or even unknown sciences lie dormant, waiting to be uncovered? And what if the greatest loss wasn't just the books, but the lost idea that knowledge should be free, universal, and eternal? In 2002, Egypt unveiled the Bibliotheca Alexandrina, a bold attempt to revive that spirit. Today, it stands as a beacon of hope and memory, whispering to us that knowledge, though fragile, is worth fighting for. The Library of Alexandria may have burned, but its fire still burns within us.
Thank you for watching, and hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. We really hope you subscribe, and if you'd like to be notified of future releases, just hit the bell button. Leave a comment. Let us know what your thoughts are on all of this and what topics you'd like to explore in our future videos.